Do as I say, not as I do. Have you heard that from a parent or a grandparent or somebody growing up? I actually try to live exactly the opposite of that in my personal life and in my professional life, in both parenting and in teaching. Not to do as I say, not as I do, but rather do as I do. Now, I really strive for this to not be a hypocrite, but there are times that even I need a reminder. In my last episode, I shared with you all about how core values have the ability to truly transform your classroom culture if you create them uniquely to you in a way that can be embraced for your own personality and also grow your profession, your skills in the classroom by really harnessing what you know about your character strengths and trying to constantly go after and improve upon those maybe character weaknesses. Now, I'm an Enneagram 3. My personality type is the achiever. And if you haven't watched last week's video or listened to last week's podcast, make sure to go ahead and do that after this video so you can get a little bit more perspective on what I'm sharing here. But if you're an Enneagram Type 3, or even if you have that sprinkled into your personality, you're going to be very super goal-oriented. And that's me. Also, though, what comes with that, I would say maybe the direct partner to that as a strength would be being a little image conscious as a weakness. And when I search myself in my personal life, things about me that I really love or I'm good at, I can even find in my personal life the fact that right now every summer, we're working on a project in my backyard that I dream up and that my husband has to help me execute. And just finally this year, I realized how difficult it must be, to execute somebody else's vision. But I know what the vision is, and my vision's always complete and total transformation. Now, it's never easy, and it's also never a quick project, but it is always beautiful in the end. And so maybe that's part of the reason I'm here with you as the spokesperson for Lab in Every Lesson. Maybe that's part of the reason I was able to overhaul the way I teach in my science classroom. Because when I become frustrated or inspired, I go after total transformation. But with that comes, what does it look like? What does it look like to visitors at my house? What does it look like to our family, our neighbors? If I'm looking at the personal world, right? But also then what does it look like to my administrators at work? What does it look like to parents? What does it look like to students? I'm very this image conscious person. And it's these two criteria about me and my personality that have led to two very specific core values I've set in my own classroom. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. First, just to try new things. To make your classroom a living laboratory in all that you do, not just science experiments. So in that way, it applies to art teachers and gym teachers and anybody. And the second is to do that, try new things, do it afraid. Be brave and get through it. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I run Lab in Every Lesson. And this message should really get to the heart of why I run Lab in Every Lesson. And it's to inspire science teachers, mostly secondary science teachers, to go student-centered with their instruction, to invoke inquiry at every turn, and to really encourage students to learn how to learn and love learning. Let's start with a pretty alarming statistic. At least it was alarming to me. There was a study done in 2021 by Custom Market Insights who claimed that the K-12, so not higher ed, not pre-K, just the K-12 education market is worth $3 billion, was worth $3 billion. At the time we're filming this, it's 2024. By 2030, get this, it's supposed to be worth $25 billion. Now, in that, we're talking, it's all-encompassing. We're talking about your biggest curriculum providers. You're talking about every type of technology, your one-to-one devices, but probably more increasingly things like virtual reality and any smart solution. In science, we can be talking about heavily robotics and STEM-focused programs. But then also, I can just tell you it's showing up in my school in a big way, is tools and software for us to be able to dig deeper into the analytics of how students are performing and really get to the root of why they're performing that way. So that $25 billion number, which is nearly 10 times in a span of only 9 years, is all encompassing. But really what it reflects is the fact that we haven't figured out education yet. And you might look at it because I gave you a money number and say these are money grabbers, right? Maybe so. Maybe so. There's money to be had, so somebody's going to make it. But if you think about your daily work and all of the challenges that you encounter on a daily basis, teaching your students and working with them, you surely can see opportunities for easing and supporting you, for supplementing them in and outside of the classroom, and those really valuable metrics that we can gain from analytics. And even though testing, is a one-time snapshot thing, it's still informative to us. It's an important tool. Probably every year somewhere, whether it's in your email inbox or coming from your administrators or somewhere on social media, you're hearing about a new improved thing to use in your classroom, or a new improved strategy that you're being encouraged to use in the classroom, or something you happen upon where you go, hey, I'd really like to try that. It might be something that you believe will increase engagement and achievement. Maybe you think it will enhance collaborative work among your students. Maybe you're going for a classroom culture thing. I want you to take just a minute, and if you did something this past year as you're watching this, let us know in the comments below what it was. Now, if you haven't tried something new in a while, hopefully this video will inspire you, get you a little motivated to do that. Because when we embrace new ideas and try new things, they could be something so simple as a seating chart. When we are becoming education researchers. I don't know, in our culture, greater degrees and certainly fame make you popular and idolized. But in the teaching world, I really feel like each and every one of us is a scientist. It doesn't matter what you teach, so long as you're constantly trying to continually improve, right? And in so doing, specifically for my science teachers watching, you are modeling science. Now, if you've never thought of yourself like that before as a science teacher, you're actually a scientist, let me tell you how. As long as you are trying new things, you are testing. So we might be skipping a few steps of that formal scientific method here, but we're testing something out. We're going, here's something new. And whether you do a whole bunch of background research first and really think and prepare for how you're going to deploy that new thing, or you just kind of plop it there, you're still testing a strategy or a resource. And when you do that, you're not just leaving it there to kind of flourish or die. You're making observations of the outcomes. Is it affecting certain students more than others, or certain groups of students more than others? Is it surprisingly enhancing group work or students' desire to do group work? Or one of so many things, right, that we might be able to witness. And then, so we're testing, we're observing, finally we're tweaking. Just like a scientist would test, observe, and maybe conclude. I'm kind of skipping that conclude thing here, but that's in there in between. We're making a judgment call. Does this work? Does it not? Can I tweak it to make it a little bit more favorable of an outcome for students to be more engaged or more collaborative or understand better? Or is this just one for the trash pile? The first two phases of that process, that teacher-scientist process, are pretty straightforward. Choosing the tool or the strategy or the resource that you're going to use and then implementing it, making those observations. It's really that last piece that is the challenge, because I think, the tweaking part, the making it work part, it's never going to be for us do or die. It's never going to be yes or no. It is going to be always a gray area. But the irony there is that we are probably adopting a new resource or trying a new strategy because we think something will work better. But realistically, there's just going to be another solution. Because just like we can't please people, all the people all the time, I really don't think there's ever going to be that one magic prairie dust that is going to serve all students equally, effectively, and equally to achieve whatever goal we're after. Anything we adopt, anything that we try new is going to need some tweaking. So trying new things as one of my core values, I see as something that I never want to abandon. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why, 5 benefits to constantly experimenting with new things as the teacher leader in your classroom. And the first is to just simply keep it fresh. If every year by October, November, December, you're feeling bored and burned out, I mean, you're not going to want to stay in the teaching profession. I mean, everybody looks forward to summer. Summer is spectacular, but we shouldn't be feeling like summer needs to come that early in the school year. So when you're just, it's like Groundhog Day, Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, that's not inspiring to anybody. So keep it fresh. The second benefit, I think, and I really truly believe this, is that it connects us back to the student experience. If this was not a core value of mine, I feel like the older I get, and I'm not super old, I'm only 43, and I've only been teaching since I'm about 30 because I'm a second career science teacher. Came to the whole thing a little bit late. But I feel like I forget what it's like to be a student. I forget what it's like to go to 5 to 7 different classes all day. I forget what it's like to have homework all night. I forget what my goals, my purpose would have been then. I do feel disconnected increasingly. But to constantly be trying new things myself puts me in a place where I'm continually testing my own patience, giving myself an opportunity to get confused, to ask questions, to feel like I need answers, to feel frustration. It's going to grow those things in you. Like one of my character weaknesses as a type 3 achiever is impatience. I am so eager to get to that goal that I am just like, when is it over? Now you go, well, wait a minute, Lisa, you said you love to do it. Yes, I love to do it. However, I want to see it through. And especially in this kind of work, like I just got done talking about, we got to tweak and tweak and tweak and see what we can change to make it work. Sometimes the make it work takes a really long time. Speaking from my own experience, though, the third benefit is that trying new things actually takes off the pressure of everything. Because when I started trying new things, I disconnected myself to some reasonable, logical degree from whatever the annual evaluation form wrote, whatever my instructional coach was pandering that month or that year, whatever my school goals were. I still was able to satisfy my own personal goals and answer to me. I wasn't letting down anyone else. It was just about serving the students and achieving this goal I set for them. So in that way, for me, I really feel like it decreases the pressure to perform if you have that. The fourth benefit I'd say is that you're bound to have some success along the way. I think there is no scientist anywhere who sets out to explore a system or test something and realizes no success whatsoever. Complete, total, epic fail over and over and over again. It's the very nature of learning that when you do something, the success comes from what you've learned from it. So even if you try some software and it doesn't produce for you what you had hoped. It doesn't give you any more information about your student learning, or it doesn't increase engagement, or it doesn't make students feel more whatever your goal is. Those are some of my goals when I implement some things that I've tried over the years. If it's not happening, then what? Then you have learned that it doesn't work. There's going to be some success. And when you have some success, what you can do is feature 5, benefit 5. You can really promote our community. A community of science teachers, maybe a greater community of teachers in general. When you attend local and regional conferences, you're going to network and you're going to share with teachers who might be having the same struggles, the same concerns, seeking out the same solutions. Hey, this is what worked great and this is what didn't work great. On the bigger picture, thinking of now not just serving your students by maybe producing a solution that's going to make their learning experience better, but then also that you can take that knowledge and share it somewhere. Maybe it's just something simple like a Facebook group or a Facebook friend, or at a barbecue you're talking to another teacher you just met and you're sharing this. For me, it fills my heart with joy to be able to let people know what I know, because I know that if they implement it, if they use that knowledge, it's going to trickle down, they say, right? Trickle down to the student, and more than likely their students will receive some benefit. So we're all in this together. Sounds so cliche. Totally true. Now would be a great time to hit that like button down below if you're finding that these ideas resonate with you. That way, of course, the whole YouTube algorithm thingy tells other teachers and we can spread the word faster and wider together. Now, as to goal setting, I promised you 2 of my core values that align and complement my Enneagram 3 achiever personality type. And so the second is being brave and doing it afraid. Let's get to that. Can we agree that social media has provided us with enough FOMO for a lifetime? Fear of missing out. That's not what we're talking about here, the fear of missing out, because the fear of missing out would make us want to do the thing more. But I'm talking about facing your fears, doing it afraid, and being brave to try the new things. Because fear is the thing that holds us back from everything. Fear is the thing that could keep us stationary and not allow us to grow, which means our students are not benefiting like they could if we would just cast that fear aside. Of course, you're an adult, you've lived in the world a while like me, and you know there's many kinds of fears. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that we might have some fear of fitting in as teachers. I'm going to tell you my story in just a few minutes, but fear of fitting in was part of it. Fitting into what other teachers are doing, fitting into what your instructional coach, if you have one, is kind of making the suggestions you do, even though maybe you've tried that and been there, done that. Fear of, as I mentioned earlier, not complying and maybe receiving the highest marks on your annual eval. So maybe expectations that your admin has set for you, or maybe you have a mentor teacher and you're trying to live up to something there. This might be more focused toward new teachers, but I was not a new teacher when I was having these feelings, because as a goal-oriented Enneagram 3 achiever, I can let myself down really hard and really easy. So fear of not meeting my own expectations was a big, big thing, and might be for you as well. Only you know what your specific fear would be with not pursuing something you're interested in. And please trust me when I tell you, I talk to teachers and I know that they have these passions, but they keep them bottled up. The only thing that does that is fear. So only you can search yourself to know exactly what type of fear is going on with you. For me, I had already been teaching almost 10 years. And in my logic, science, math brain, 10 years is a long time. I should be good at this by now. But I teach in cyber school, the really super difficult landscape, very challenging learning model to get engagement. And when I became a teacher, I was really looking forward to the exchange with students, with me and them. And so when I just sat at my computer, like in near tears, before or after a class, because I so dreaded basically reciting another script, the same thing I had done 2 or 3 other times in the day, to crickets. Literally, this wall probably learned more in a few of those years than my students did. And it had to change. And I pursued the solution. I scoured the internet and I was reading the books. And at some point, it did just come to me. You just have to make students do something every day. And what's better to do than science? And one of the things I had going on was not so much a fear, but more of a made-up obstacle, that because I was in cyber school, because I was leading class on a computer, because my school did not send resources, tangibles, I teach chemistry, there was no lab like that going on at all, that I couldn't really lead science. And that was just a made-up thing in my head, because the internet is rich with resources. So what I needed to do then was couple this idea of making students active, making it all about them and them leading their exploration, a little bit of guidance from me, and confidently seeking and sourcing materials. Then I had a new plan. I had a fantastic new plan. And I was even tweaking and troubleshooting for students who didn't even have to come to class, but could satisfy, just by logging in every day. I still felt like I wanted to and needed to see their work. I am their teacher. I felt accountable for teaching them. And so I had to come up with a whole system for them to show the same thing. And anyway, so where's the fear, Lisa? Well, none of this was happening at my school. And the mentality on the team of teachers I was working with, and still really currently today, as I'm sharing this with you, in Pennsylvania, they've changed the standards. They're not fully implementing this coming year, but I believe the next year everyone's accountable for them. And I don't mean to, my next video is going to be on humility, but for this one, I'm just going to tell you, I've got it nailed. I have it done, not to the best it can be, because I believe in continual improvement. No one's perfect, but I've got a good, solid foundation. It took getting over the fact that no one else was doing it to make that happen. Now, I worked on a team of 4 other teachers at the time. I couldn't really connect with the struggles and the planning and the conversations that were happening there, because I actually literally had to totally go rogue. I had to change up a little bit of the sequencing of my lessons to really either more further encourage the inquiry and the discovery ideas. So I felt isolated. At the same time, I was feeling this huge fear about sharing all that I was doing, because for fear of rejection. I mean, these things don't go away when you turn 18. Oh my God, do they ever go away? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below when they go away, because the peer stuff, I don't know that it ever does. Can I tell you the fear in class? I mean, I teach cyber school. I literally I did so much damage to myself in those years. Probably for at least the first 3 years. I'm in my 5th year of rolling this out now. For the first 3 years of doing it, it physically hurt me. I had palpitations. I held my breath because I just knew. I didn't demand of them anything but to listen, not to learn through doing. And here I was right out of the gate every single day. Do this exploration. And I was afraid, because my entire lesson was built on and required them to do. There was going to be no lecture. If they didn't do, they wouldn't learn. And so, tremendous amount of fear there. And I don't even teach a class that is monitored with state testing. Biology in Pennsylvania is the one that is focused on for state testing in high school. I might not have been able to get over that fear, because their data is looked at so closely. I would have never known if it would improve student outcomes because I never would have tried. It would have been too big of a risk. I did, however, get through the first year. And can I just say that, of course, it totally helps when your students are feeding off of you and you have that exchange. And they're telling you, this is great. I love this. And what I learned in that first year that I wasn't planning for at all was the whole real student-centered thing. The whole real, I am now becoming something else to them. I am becoming a support figure. I am shepherding them. I am not just talking at them. I'm not telling them everything. I'm mentoring. I'm supporting. This is the role I always wanted to be in. And so since then, I've just become uber passionate about the whole relationship, but that how that student-teacher relationship can grow from the teaching strategies that you adopt and use and the lessons that you plan and the way you go about things. But we're not for trying new things. We're not for doing it afraid. It just, we never would know. This feels like a great opportunity to share with you some super insightful quote from some super famous person. Actually, oftentimes when I look up quotes, I get these really awesome quotes from people that nobody knows. So I'm foregoing that today. In light of our discussion about fear and doing it afraid, I feel like a faith-based message would be so much more impactful here. And also, that's just where I am in my season of life right now. And there are two verses in particular that, and I am not a Bible verse memorizer. These verses are memorized, they're etched in my brain, because at the time that I was trying so many new things at once, I had a faith-based planner. And every day, every page gave me a new verse. And some of them, it was all the fear ones. They just popped out of the page at me. The first one is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. And it says, "For you do not have a spirit of fear." God did not give you a spirit of fear, but a spirit. So digest that for a minute. Power, love, self-control, not fear. And then the second one comes from the book of John. And John chapter 4, verse 18 says, "Perfect love casts out fear." I was not given a spirit of fear. That's something I'm making up myself. I was given power, love, self-control. Hey, it's okay for me to take the reins. I've got that self-control to try new things. And the love part, the love part is all about, I believe, if we're making these decisions, trying the new things in the best interests of our students, then we have nothing to fear. Perfect love casts out fear. And I can tell you from personal experience, it was the driving force that kept me going, that overcame the fear, was to hear the students sharing their positive experiences with the way I was able to lead class because of how I was asking them to learn the teaching strategies I was using. Not what I was saying, not what I was showing, not what was super colorful and fun and awe-inspiring, but the way I went about meeting them every day, where they were at, and letting them lead their learning. Try something new that works for you and forget about the fear, as long as you are focused on those spectacular student outcomes. Keeping a good attitude when you're trying all these new things with all these new people and all the stuff is bubbling up. That's the core value for another video.